Pope Francis has approved the beatification of 4 popular Catholic figures, including 3 from Latin America. China hosted a high-level video conference on the Belt and Road Initiative. The African Union launched a unified trade platform to enable the supply of COVID-19 related critical medical equipment in the continent. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. Known in Venezuela as the Doctor of the Poor, José Gregorio Hernández Cisneros was beatified by Pope Francis this Friday. In an audience with Cardinal Angelo Becci, the Pope authorized the decrees that will allow the canonization of 4 popular figures recognized for serving the poor, their nations and youth during the 19th century. One of the figures is German, Venerable Francis Mary of the Cross Jordan, born John Baptist Jordan, while the other 3 are Latin Americans, the Argentinian Mamerto Escui, who belonged to the Order of Friars Minor, the Mexican Gloria Maria de Jesús Elizondo Garcia, and Venezuela's José Gregorio Hernández Cisneros, born in 1864.
Que aglutina y que une a todos los venezolanos.
Guyanese opposition leader Bharat Jagdeo has stated that the notice of motion filed in the Court of Appeal by a supporter of the caretaker APNU-AFC coalition is a disguised elections petition. The Court of Appeal was expected to hear the application on Friday. It is asking for a series of orders to stop the Guyana Elections Commission from moving ahead with the declaration of the final results of the March 2nd general elections. However, Jagdeo, who is also the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party Civic, the alliance that has emerged as the winner of the vote, contends that the court has no jurisdiction to hear the matter. Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield was expected to submit his final elections report to the Commission on Thursday, but delayed doing so after he was served with the legal notice. Education officials in St. Lucia are planning for a safe reopening of schools in September 2020 for all students, but noted that it all depends on the advice of the Ministry of Health and the Chief Medical Officer. The Ministry of Education, on the advice of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, decided to commence a phased reopening of schools for Grade 6 and Form 5 as of June 3rd. The decision was taken to facilitate the preparation of students for the Common Entrance and CSEC examinations. A multifaceted approach to teaching has been implemented, including virtual classes to keep students engaged during the period away from the classroom as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Every principal is charged with the effective and efficient management of the plant. We will make, and we have made, recommendations, but in terms of policing, I'm really hoping that our parents see themselves as partners in this, because the child would have had to left home with a mask on, that our parents and adults can appreciate that the child is wearing his or her school uniform and so should be dressed appropriately. But similarly, our principals are charged, and the school rules remain the same. The school rules have not changed. We're coming back for a period of less than 16 days to ensure that we bridge that gap. But our students likewise, our secondary and our grade 6 students, and I always like to appreciate that they're smart children. With 10, 11, and 12, our children know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. In terms of policing and reminding, obviously that will be done. But we really appreciate the sense of responsibility that every individual parent, teacher, student must take for his or her own welfare. And in particular reference to the use of masks, that they know that they're coming to a school environment, a professional environment, and so they dress accordingly.
In Brazil, the number of COVID-19 cases could reach 1 million and the death toll is expected to exceed 50,000 this weekend. Experts point out that if drastic measures are not implemented by the federal government, the country will hit 2 negative milestones of the pandemic. Looking at data from the last 3 days, they've predicted that the number of COVID-19 cases will increase exponentially. Brazil's health ministry acknowledged that over the last 3 weeks, more cases were confirmed than expected. Despite this, Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, 2 of the most affected cities, are promoting economic reopening measures. In its eighth and final debate, the Colombian Senate approved a crucial bill implementing life sentences for child rapists. The decision has been supported by President Iván Duque.
The Congress of the Republic has put forward a great reform that many families were waiting for, that we were all waiting for, and it is that today Colombia will have life sentence for rapists and murderers of minors. Today we are thinking in all the children that have suffered this. Today we are thinking in all the minors that have been victims of these heinous criminal acts. Today, as a country, we act. And as a country, we send a clear message in regards to Article 44 of our Constitution. Children's rights are above all. To say that the country has come together.
In El Salvador, 10 prisoners escaped from a jail on Thursday night. After escaping from the Apopa jail, the fugitives headed to the Rescue Command headquarters and assaulted the rescue workers on duty. They then stole their uniforms and an ambulance to continue their escape. The National Police found the vehicle used by the convicts, which was abandoned on a road. In the early hours of Friday, the police managed to recapture 2 of the escapees. Police Director Mauricio Ariasa Chicas warned that the fugitives are armed. Uruguay is gradually resuming artistic performances following the coronavirus outbreak. This Friday, as Uruguay entered Phase 0, artistic performances resumed and will only be slightly limited in the music sector as long as the presence of COVID-19 persists. Minister of Education and Culture, Pablo da Silveira, pointed out that for the time being, music can only be performed at sites where food is served, with a maximum of 4 performers, for which a health protocol has been approved. We have more stories coming up after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Chinese government stressed on Friday that if the US decides to cut off economic ties with China, it will only further harm the American people. Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Zhao Lishan said on Friday that to artificially cut off the global industrial and supply chain and change the laws of economics is unrealistic and unadvisable. He stressed the move would not help the United States to solve its problems. The comments came after President Donald Trump renewed his threats to cut ties, a day after US diplomats held a high-level talks with Beijing and after his top US trade negotiator said severing trade relations was not a viable option. Meanwhile, Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, said on Friday he doesn't think US President Donald Trump is fit for office. In an exclusive interview with ABC News, Bolton elaborated on his comments in his new book, The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir, a publication of which the Trump administration is seeking to block.
I don't think he's fit for office. I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job. There really isn't any guiding principle that I was able to discern other than what's good for Donald Trump's reelection.
China hosted a high-level video conference on the Belt and Road International Cooperation this Friday. Chinese President Xi Jinping sent a message to the conference, noting that thanks to the active participation and strong support of all parties, the Belt and Road Initiative has evolved into the largest platform for international cooperation. Among the attendees were the WHO Director General, as well as foreign ministers and top-level officials from 25 countries. In his message, President Xi said that China will work with its partners to make the initiative a model of cooperation to face challenges together. He added that the initiative will be a model of health to protect the safety and welfare of the peoples and an example of recovery on restoring economic and social activity. The Chinese capital, Beijing, reported 25 new confirmed locally transmitted COVID-19 cases on Thursday, with 21 linked to the Xinfadi wholesale market in the southern district of Fengtai, according to local authorities.
On Thursday, Beijing detected 25 new confirmed COVID-19 cases, with 17 male cases and 8 female cases. Their average age is 45, with the youngest being 25 years old and the eldest being 69. One of them has Beijing household registration and 24 have household registrations in other provinces. 18 cases occur in Fengtai district, 5 ones in Daxing district, 1 in Xichen district and 1 in Haidian district. In clinical types, 7 are mild cases and 18 are normal cases. Of the total confirmed cases, 21 are related to the Shin Fatty wholesale market. The remaining 4 cases are under epidemiological investigation.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in accepted the resignation of Unification Minister Kim Yong-chul on Friday. According to the presidential office, the move came days after Kim said he wanted to resign to take responsibility for increasing tensions between the North and South. Kim quit after the Inter-Korean Liaison Office was destroyed by Pyongyang on Tuesday. The South Korean president appointed Kim as Unification Minister in April last year as talks between the Trump administration and North Korea began falling apart over stalled nuclear negotiations. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen proposed a virus recovery package for the bloc, totalling €1.85 trillion during a video-linked summit between EU leaders.
This is a chance Europe cannot afford to miss. I want a Europe which is better able to weather global storms and provide a safe home for future generations. So I'm looking forward to today's discussion. I'm convinced that for common success, we must stay focused on the big picture. We must all pull together. We cannot afford any delay. New MFF, this is a huge stimulus of 1,850 billion euros. And it does not only help the economies of the countries which were hit hardest by the virus, it also helps the countries whose economies have been hit hard indirectly.
The United Nations warned on Friday that its humanitarian logistics flights could be largely grounded in July due to a lack of funds, severely compromising global aid operations.
Unless a substantial injection of funds is provided by donors by the end of the first week of July, WFP will have no choice but to ground most of its humanitarian air fleet by the end of July. This is a response on a scale never seen before. And with the pandemic showing no signs of abating, it is crucial that the response doesn't stop now when it is needed most. The Common Services budget of 965 million to maintain the air service until the end of the year is only 14% funded. Only $178 million has so far been confirmed or advanced.
The former head of the WHO and former Norwegian Prime Minister, Gro Harlem Brundtland, has stated that the US government has caused lasting damage to the UN system and the broader principles of multilateralism since 2017.
It is an especially sad irony that this assault on multilateralism is being led by the country that played the single biggest role in the establishment and maintenance of the multilateral system after 1945. To my deep regret, the current US administration has done lasting damage to the UN system and the broader principles of multilateralism since 2017. President Trump's latest decision to withdraw the US from participation in the World Health Organization is perhaps the most astonishingly and transparently counterproductive of all these moves.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Gutteres said on Friday that the COVID-19 pandemic has turned the world of work upside down and stressed that things cannot continue as before after this crisis.
The COVID-19 pandemic has turned the world of work upside down. Every worker, every business, and every corner of the globe has been affected. Hundreds of millions of jobs have been lost. The world of work cannot and should not look the same after this crisis. It's time for a coordinated global, regional, and national effort to create decent work for all as the foundation of a green, inclusive, and resilient recovery. For example, a shift of taxation from payroll to carbon could help to go a long way in this direction. With smart and timely action at all levels and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development as our guide, we can emerge from this crisis stronger, with better jobs and a brighter, more equal and greener future for all.
And we're taking one last very short break now, so stay with us for more. Welcome back to From the South. The African Union has launched a unified trade platform to enable the supply of COVID-19 related critical medical equipment in the continent. The project is called the African Medical Supplies Platform and is a digital portal that will serve to coordinate the complicated access, procurement and distribution of medical supplies needed by each member of the AU. The project seeks to improve access by African countries to the health materials needed to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The new platform had been anticipated on Wednesday by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, although the official launch was made on Friday at a press conference led by the South African President and the Commission Chair.
I appointed an envoy in addition to the other envoys who are
75-year-old Juba Alos is a Congolese refugee and preacher who has decided to raise awareness in the Kakuma refugee camp after watching videos on a friend's phone about people dying from COVID-19 in Europe. The Juba immediately decided that he had to do something to help raise awareness because, as he says, there are two groups of refugees who are informed and refugees who are not. Juba attached posters and a loudspeaker to his bicycle to accomplish his mission. The broadcast as he cycles also making intermittent stops to further educate others in the camp. The camp is home to almost 200,000 people, and Juba believes that the dissemination of accurate information to as many people as possible is an extremely important task.
There are two groups of refugees who are informed and refugees who are not. There are no people coming together to pray, and I love to preach and sing in the church. I will create awareness every day so that people stay safe from coronavirus.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, artists are decorating the walls of the capital, Kinshasa, to raise awareness about the COVID-19 pandemic. Director of the Academy of Fine Arts, Henry Kalama, said that the aim of this campaign is to fight misinformation, to show that the disease is real and that everyone must unite to fight the pandemic.
The statuettes, they are protective in themselves, and therefore the most important thing for me was to pass on this message of protection. And I think the statue was the right way to get that message across, because it's protective in itself.
Prime Minister of Lebanon, Hassan Diab, assured that national interests will be prioritized in the face of the latest US sanctions against neighboring Syria. The Caesar Syria Civilian Protection Act punishes any person or state with links to Syria. According to the Lebanese Prime Minister, the interests of his country will not be subject to the US law. Diab referred to warnings from former Prime Minister Saad Hariri about the consequences of not complying with this extraterritorial US legislation. German NGO Sea-Watch says it has picked up over 210 migrants off Libya's coast this week. The NGO has performed 3 rescues over the last 48 hours and is demanding a port of safety to immediately disembark those rescued. In a first operation on Wednesday morning, almost 100 migrants were rescued around 29 nautical miles off the coast of Libya. Some were given immediate medical attention, among them women and children, as well as several who were injured. Sea-Watch noted in a statement that the injuries included chemical burns from the fuel-saltwater mixture in a dinghy they were travelling aboard. The organisation added that Libyan coast guards would have returned the migrants to Libya if they had not brought them to safety first. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.